Wisp Sports Radio, the voice of women in sport.
Welcome to Season 1, Episode 4 of the Lovely Biertrix on Wisp Sports. I'm the Lovely Biertrix, and at Wisp Sports we believe women in sport deserve equal coverage. This month we're talking to Lindsey Watson, aka Habs from Auld Reekie Roller Derby, about mental health and roller derby. So Lindsey, welcome to my podcast.
Thank you.
So excited to have you on, and it's really quite fitting, the subject of this month's podcast, because it is Mental Health Awareness Week this week in the UK, and there is lots of promotion, particularly this year, around body positivity and body image and kind of doing things to make yourself feel better and looking at yourself in a different way. So hopefully some of the stuff we're going to be talking about is quite relevant to that, and if not, I'm pretty sure everybody's going to find your story very interesting. But first of all, Habs, tell me about your place in roller derby, your journey into Auld Reekie Roller Derby.
Well, I started with Auld Reekie about 10 years ago, maybe 9 or 10 years ago. I've always roller skated, just been like one of those kids that just really liked them from like an early age. And then you get to a point that you just feel a bit weird, like skating about the park on your own, just with a pair of roller skates. So I had gone on holiday to San Francisco, and I was lucky enough to go to a Bay Area home teams game and just loved it, and then came back. I'm not really great with like large groups of people that I don't know. So my boyfriend at the time, he was working in Edinburgh, and I've always lived in Glasgow, but he was working in Edinburgh, and there was one girl that he worked with that was part of Auld Reekie. So I went along with her and was with Auld Reekie for maybe 2 years, and just the commute was really tough with my work and things like that. So I eventually transferred. I obviously fell in love with the sport, but transferred to Glasgow because by that point, because we played against them, I had made friends in Glasgow, so I didn't feel as awkward. And then, so I was with Glasgow for like 6 years maybe, and then I moved back to Auld Reekie, which is where I am just now.
Right. And I know, I've took up a sport recently, and I know how daunting it is that very first time when you walk into a new venue and you don't really know anybody and you don't know what to expect. And roller derby, especially 10 years ago, incredibly underground, niche sport, not a lot of Facebook presence, it was just getting started. So it must have felt quite daunting to go in there, even with a friend, even with somebody kind of new. It must have felt quite daunting to make that first step into the sports hall.
Yeah, definitely, like 100%. I think obviously the reason that I'm here talking to you today is I've kind of always had a bit of like anxiety, depression. So yeah, this was like a big deal for me to walk into a group of what I thought was like, the cool kids. And I, had to go there and put myself out there. And yeah, I mean, it was really, really, it was terrifying at first, definitely.
Yeah, little did you know you were going to become one of those cool kids really quickly, or in fact, you probably already were.
I'm not sure about that, but yeah.
Habs, it's well, I totally respect that you did that you turned up in that hall and put on those skates despite that anxiety and those feelings, because it is a huge step. And sometimes I think once we've been in the sport a while, we forget how daunting that can be for people to come in and be faced with a lot of talent, noise, unfamiliar things, and I always feel when we see new skaters, and I do a lot of new skater debut commentating on that it's just amazing that people have got as far as they have sometimes, because it is overwhelming. It can be overwhelming. And that's before you even strap a pair of skates onto your feet and learn about the rules and, just try and stay upright. So well done to you for doing that. Proud of you.
Thanks. I think, thanks. I think that we do, like, we talk about privilege quite a lot. And I think it's really important to remember that in a situation like that, like after being the really nervous one. You know, years later, when there was new skaters, I knew that my privilege was the fact that I knew people. I had built up a bit of confidence through that. So you then have to take that and pass it on to other people. So make an effort, go and talk to the new person. Make sure that you're making them feel as comfortable as possible because you were in that situation in the first place. So it is really, I think it's really important to kind of have that nurturing attitude towards the newer skaters, because I was shown that and I'm really grateful for it.
Definitely being shown that kindness and remembering that kindness later on. And that works for skaters, volunteers, announcers, referees. I think that's something that we can all take on board and just have a think about as we're going to our practices and our games, that you do have to show that kindness, and new people in our sport is what keeps us going. So taking that step back and recognizing that fear factor for new people coming into the sport, I think is a really important thing for people to do and leagues to do especially. So that's great. You've been in roller derby for 10 whole years. You're practically a dinosaur. Your joints are all creaky, but you're still loving it, which is fantastic. And obviously you fell in love with the sport, and everybody I speak to always says, I started going and then I fell in love with the sport, and now here I am, penniless from all the tournaments I go to, but having a great old time. How has your mental health improved or changed? Or I really struggle sometimes with the wording around mental health. Somebody who's suffered myself with bouts of depression and anxiety as well. Sometimes I feel like the words that we use in society around mental health about battling depression, they're not always right, because I don't always feel like I am a warrior, that I am battling something and I'm succeeding, or I'm some kind of, soldier against this. Sometimes I feel like I'm just crawling along and getting out of bed. But how did roller derby change your perspective or help you with your poorer episodes of mental health?
Well, so I've had like a few bouts of like bad mental health in my life, and the time I had a really serious one about 4 years ago while I was skating, and I hadn't had like an episode like that when I had roller derby in my life, so I can only really see how it was different. The low was the lowest that I'd had in my life, which was nothing to do with the roller derby, but it was definitely, I'd say the most dangerous place that I'd been in, and I think I guess I kind of got to a point that it was make or break, and I had gone to the doctor, and he was actually amazing. I've obviously heard bad times where doctors haven't maybe had enough time to talk to people, but this doctor that I have is just absolutely phenomenal. He just listened to me, and then we spoke about, I guess he wanted to know whether I was essentially capable of feeling happy or if I just felt really sad all the time. And I told him that I played roller derby, and I told him that it made me feel better. And he just said, well, you need to like throw yourself into it. And I did. So I made sure that I was always going to training. I didn't want to let people down. I mean, lots of times, I know that sounds dramatic, but I was like literally a shell. I would turn up, I wouldn't speak to people. I would just, put on my kit and just skate. And then afterwards, I maybe wouldn't feel amazing, but I definitely felt better than I did. And I think the main thing that roller derby has done is taught me to recognise what exercise can do. Where I think before I maybe didn't see the relationship as clearly as I do now. So I almost see exercise as like almost as medication. So I know that, for example, if I've been out and I've had a drink the weekend, I know that my mental health will be lower than usual. So Mondays are really important to me, and I need to make sure that I go to the gym or I go to training on a Monday, because I know that it's going to help me, and I know that it's going to build my serotonin up. And I think even just beside that, I think roller derby makes you think of your body differently. It makes you see it as important as it is. So you don't, even when you I don't know, like you're having a day where you think you're useless, you can go and you're part of a team, and you make a difference to other people as well. So it really helps with self-confidence and like bad or like low, I guess that's more the word, low mental health days are like greatly improved with exercise, and specifically to me, roller derby.
Yeah. Did your teammates know at the time that you were going through a poor episode, or were you able to be open and honest with them, or did you feel like that was still something that was very much an internal thing?
I told my captains. I have like best friends in the team. And one of like my best friend, Prawn, doesn't skate anymore, and she just left at that point. So I like she knew, but she wasn't on the team. But there was maybe about 3 people on the team that knew, and I don't really think anybody knew exactly how bad it was.
Yeah.
And I think because I didn't really want people talking to me about it. I just wanted to get on with it. And so I'd told the captains, and I'd asked them just to tell the team, you know, if Habs turns up and she's not talkative, it's fine. Just get on with things. Don't ask her what's going on. You know, she's just a bit stressed out.
Yeah.
So that was the thing that went along, because I think also the good thing about roller derby is you don't necessarily need to be best friends with everyone either. You're part of a team, and if you work as a team, but you maybe don't want everyone to know absolutely everything about your life. And at that point, I definitely didn't want everyone to know. So they knew us to a certain extent. Well, some of them did.
Yeah. So you were as open as you could be, as you felt you could be, or as much as you wanted to be, for your teammates that did know they were there. And did you find that there was support there for you and an understanding, or did you feel like you had to do any kind of education around what you needed, or did
I think what's maybe good about roller derby is it attracts a certain type of person, and it's a kind of creative person, and I would say that there's probably a higher percentage of people in roller derby that have had some dealings with their mental health, and so I think everyone's very understanding, because we've all got our issues, and we've all got our demons, I guess, and it was I didn't ever need to explain. No one didn't understand. And I think it's so important in roller derby.
Definitely. I mean, 1 in 3 of us will experience poor mental health in our lifetime. So, you know, it's going to be there, and it's going to be within our teams and within our league mates. And I guess it shouldn't come as a surprise to people if somebody is able to stand up and put their hand up and say, you know, I'm really struggling at the moment, or I'm just working through some things at the moment. What would you, coming away from that now, what advice would you give to leagues who maybe have teammates who are going through similar? What would you have liked, or what did you get from your teammates that was helpful, or is there something that you feel, or is there something that's changed in Auld Reekie, for instance, to support people better when they're going through poor periods of mental health? Because roller derby is a sport and it's a sport club, but as you said, we're all teammates. We don't have to be best friends, but being part of a team means being there and supporting each other. Is there anything that you feel leagues listening to this podcast could say, you know, that's something we could implement really easily that would be supportive and helpful?
Yeah, well, I don't know about the rest of the UK or the rest of the world, but Auld Reekie were one of the very first members of the SAMH, which is the Scottish Mental Health Association, their charter, which means that Auld Reekie do training. They're very active in helping and maintaining everyone's mental health within the league, and I think that's really, really important. And just even talking about it, there's obviously, when I was at my worst, I felt like I couldn't talk about it, but for people who have gone through it and are out the other side, I think it's really important to. It might not feel nice to let people know that you were vulnerable at that point, but it's really, really important, because there'll be someone that maybe you don't know that they're having a bad time and they've not said anything. And I think at Auld Reekie we talk about it a lot. We do work, like I say, with SAMH, and we really prioritise mental health. Even just in a team, your mental game is so important. And if you feel supported and you feel, at your best, then that's when you're going to play better. That's when the team's going to work better as well. So there's every reason to really champion good mental health.
Yeah, absolutely. It should go hand in hand with the physical side, and as we know, more and more leagues are looking at that cross training from a physical point of view, and what training you can do outside of league training to improve their roller derby. And often something that is overlooked is our mental stamina and our mental strength as well. And that's fantastic to hear that Auld Reekie have actually been proactive in implementing and that support within the league, and kind of normalizing it, right? Like that it's on the same level as the physical health. For you, when you were going through please carry on.
No, I was just going to say it's just as important, and it should be treated exactly the same way. You should be able to go to your captain and say, I'm not well at this point because of this, in the same way that you would say, my ankle's playing up. You should be able to go and speak to your captain or speak to your teammates. And to me, the most important thing that your captains or your league mates can do is listen to you and ask, because everyone needs different things at different times. So just saying, what would you like me to do? What would help you? I think is really, really important, because it might be, can you check in with me every day? Or it might be, can you not talk to me about this while I'm at training? It can be all manner of different things. So I think it's really, really important to deal with things as much as, yes, normalise it, but also to deal with it on a personal level, because different people need different things from it.
Yeah, completely understand that. When you were going through that poor episode, and your doctor kind of said to you, okay, like, you really enjoy roller derby, so get yourself into that, really throw yourself into it. How did you motivate yourself on those bad days? I know there'll be people who are listening who maybe are going through that or struggling with that, and getting out of the door sometimes can be the hardest step, right? So what did you find helped you? What helped you on those days where it just felt very tough, or it felt insurmountable to get out the door and go to training?
Well, I think because roller derby is a team sport, that was the number one for me. And obviously people are different, but I hate the thought of letting people down. So I knew that if I wasn't there, then my team would have one less person. And it was simply that. Like, I decided that it almost wasn't an option. Because there would be times that I couldn't speak to a person. I would just I would make sure all my gear was packed the night before. I would make sure that I laid stuff out. I made everything so easy, so that all the little excuses that the bad part of your brain that's trying to put you off feeling better, all those excuses were just taken away. So I made sure that I arranged to travel there with someone, or all my gear was washed and packed, and food was out, food was ready for me when I came home. Lots of things like that were so important because it can take just the littlest thing, the littlest tiny thing that goes wrong, and then you go, well, it doesn't matter anymore. And I just knew that absolutely nothing else was going to make me feel better. I needed to make myself feel better. And I think for my personality, that it was the best thing. The fact that the doctor said, he put me on medication, but essentially I had to produce that serotonin myself, because if I didn't, it wasn't going to work. And I love having that control. So I was like, right, this is up to me. You can do this. You have to push yourself. And, like little silly motivational like post-its on your mirror, and just anything, absolutely anything that would work for me. That was exactly what I did, because it wasn't just going to get magically better.
Yeah. And you have to find those things that motivate you, or work out the things that are going to really throw you off, and work out those strategies around them. And it sounds like you implemented those really well. Did family members understand why you were pushing yourself so much into roller derby? Did they understand where you were in terms of your mental health? And did they understand and appreciate and support the feeling that roller derby was giving you? Or did they think you'd just become a roller derby machine?
Well, to be honest, until like recently, I told you about going to the doing the parliamentary talk a few weeks ago, and it was actually only then that I kind of told my parents the full extent of exactly where I was at that point. My big brother knew, but no, I honestly really kept a lot of it to myself, which I don't think is a particularly good or healthy thing to do. But that was what I needed to do at that point, just because I didn't want the added pressure of worrying people.
Yeah.
But they were really, really supportive, and they've always, I think they probably look at me and think, oh, what's this weird thing that Lindsey's doing now? And that's fine, but they have always been supportive of it. There's been like, yep, sure, you want to play roller derby, okay then. And they supported me in as much as they knew. They didn't know how bad things were for me, but they have always been supportive.
So just briefly, you mentioned there about going and talking to the Scottish Parliament, but obviously we talked about that before we started recording. So I think it'd just be really nice to kind of round off and tell us what you were doing talking to Parliament.
Well, there was a Sam H, the Scottish Mental Health Association, were doing a like parliamentary night where they had MSPs in, and I think the world of Sam H. They do such good work. They're absolutely amazing. The whole night was all about the relationship between sport and mental health, and there was lots of people there. There was MSPs who did running, and they'd also struggled with their mental health, and it helped them. And it was just like a big, lovely night of sharing stories. And I had been invited to share my story, which was terrifying, absolutely terrifying. But I was so honoured to go there, and it was kind of a strange night. I felt like I got a bit upset because it was the first time I'd told that like kind of unedited version of my story, and I wanted to go there and get power from it, and I guess I didn't feel that. But it turns out that afterwards, I guess I'd just given it to other people, because a lot of people got stuff out of it, which was really good. And it's not necessarily about you feeling better, like sharing your story. Sometimes it's about making other people feel better just by helping them and telling them that sometimes it sucks. It sucks for everyone, but then it does get better.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Habs, thank you so much for sharing your story with us today. I think it's really powerful. And
Oh, thanks for having me.
no, it's honestly, it's my honour to hear you talking about it, and talking about mental health, and just it's a powerful thing to hear somebody's story. And I always feel like when I first started roller derby, the song "Roller Derby Saved My Soul" used to be quite a big anthem.
Yeah.
And you kind of roll your eyes a little bit and think, oh, it's such a cliche. But actually, for a lot of us, it's not a cliche. It's the way that we've found a way to appreciate our bodies and create that serotonin and feel better about ourselves and be able to actually directly impact and implement improvements into our health, not just physical, but also mental. So I do think it saved a lot of people's souls, actually. And I don't mind living that cliche.
For sure. Yeah, no, 100%.
Conversations from the world of women's sports. This is Wisp Sports Radio.
That's us, and that's our 4th episode. I'll be back next month with another amazing episode. In the meanwhile, follow Wisp Sports on Facebook to catch our Facebook Live show face to face, where I'll be sharing more roller derby news and some tips every other week. Be sure to subscribe to Wisp Sports on your podcast player. The show notes for this episode can be found on the Lovely Biertrix show page at wispsports.com. And while you're on the website, you'll find a lot more coverage of women's sports, from podcasts to videos, interviews and blogs covering all sports around the world. Follow us and share your comments on social media at Wisp Sports and at Biertrix, and we'll also have Habs' social media and other links in our show notes. And we'd love to hear from you if you have any suggestions for guests or would like to tell us what you think of the show. Drop us a line at info@wispsport.com. Until next time, thank you for listening and supporting women in sport everywhere.